Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Three Technique, the college football podcast at the intersection of the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes. What you probably just heard is when the preview audio doesn't work, doesn't play the song. Trey dropped something in his hotel room. We're off to a rip-roaring start here in the Week 10 live show. Glad to have you guys with us, whether you're watching live on YouTube, on Twitter, or listening to the podcast after the fact. And if you are listening to the podcast, you are now aware that we're joined by good friends of the show from the Walk-on Redshirts, Jake and Will. Guys, fantastic to have you on the live show. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And we're excited to talk some football with you, and a lot of chaos, I think, to get to, especially, Will, in your conference in the ACC. We'll do our best to avoid Clemson. Some other bigger storylines, I think, to get around there. But first and foremost, Trey, you were at Rice-Eccles Stadium last night to watch the Big 12 game of the week, Cincinnati and Utah. You've got a work meeting because there are apparently more important things than talking college football on a Sunday. So I'll turn the floor over to you to start us off. Just give us the report from the ground. What was Rice-Eccles like? Utah obviously shellacked Cincinnati. Looked like a tremendous atmosphere on TV.
It was incredible. I've said it off camera here to all y'all before we hit record, but if Rice-Eccles Stadium is not on your college football bucket list, it needs to be added to the college football bucket list, because between the crowd, the environment in the stadium, the environment outside the stadium, just the scenery around it, right, with the setting in the mountains and a cool fall air, it just incredible game day experience here in Salt Lake City. The Muss brought the energy from the word go. They were jumping from even before kick. I think it was like their 94th or 96th consecutive sellout, they said. So, I mean, that includes a season like last year where it was a really, really difficult one to get through. But that's not a question I need to answer right now. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it just an incredible atmosphere here in Salt Lake City. As for the game, man, it was clear that maybe if this was played on a neutral field, maybe if it wasn't in a night game in Utah, this plays out a little bit differently. But whether it was just succumbing to the environment or the travel with crossing time zones, whatever it was, Cincinnati was just a step behind Utah all night. They hit a couple big plays. They hit Cyrus Allen a couple times, but if they weren't connecting on that big play, it never really felt like they were going to sustain enough drives to keep them in that game with Utah. And Utah, on the other hand, couldn't hit the big play. They missed a couple big deep shots down the field. That was really making the natives a little restless up here. But they could sustain drives. Every time they needed 4 yards, Devin Dampier was getting 5. Just a really, really great offensive performance from them. Mitch, you said off air that you feel like if anybody can stop the run, they're probably going to shut down Utah. I think I agree with that. But that run game, you have to be a really good run defense, because Cincinnati wasn't awful against the run coming into this one. And they had their moments, especially at the very beginning of the game, where they bowed up and it looked like it was going to be a difficult time. But just as the game wore on, it was way too much firepower on that ground game from Utah. Yep. So great experience. I walked away thinking Utah is clearly at least the third best team in the Big 12. And I think they might compete in a couple other conferences as well. They've got some dudes on those interior lines that would play in multiple different conferences.
Yeah, really cool to see Kyle Whittingham get another big win at home. Like you said, probably the third best team in the conference. The problem is they've lost to the top two teams in Texas Tech and BYU that could play havoc in the tiebreaker scenarios we were talking about before we hit record as well. But Utah, man, they've bounced back from the disaster that was last season. And I think, deservedly so, right? Kyle Whittingham, if this is his last year, maybe coaches one more. You'd like to finish on the upswing, right? As opposed to all the rumors that maybe last year was going to be his final season. But yeah, man, thrilled that you got to do that, be a part of that. There were some awesome videos that you put over on our Twitter account at 3TechPod if you want to go check those out. Stick around for as long as you'd like. Maybe just tap somebody in from the bench when you've got to run. But guys, let's swing back over to the Walk-on Redshirts here. And I want you guys to start with your storylines of Week 10. It was a chaotic Saturday, not only for the on-field product, but the off-field product, I guess, as well, with YouTube TV just submarining all of college football and ESPN trying to play the 800-pound gorilla in the room that was not fun to have to deal with as a consumer. So 2 things that I want from you, and Jake, we'll start with you first. I want your biggest storyline of the day, and then I want to know how you circumvented the corporate greed that we had to deal with yesterday.
Yeah. So when you asked this, I put Vandy's dream seasons on life support. And Miami as well.
And Vandy just cut
and
off.
Miami's dream seasons are on life support.
say that one more time, because you cut out, and Will said YouTube TV silenced you for a second. So run that right back.
Yeah. Vandy and Miami's dream season are on life support were my 2 biggest takeaways of the weekend. And coincidentally, I went to a game. I went to a bar that had games, and then I downloaded DirecTV Stream for any of my ESPN games I needed. And then I don't know why this is a life hack that people don't use more, is buy an antenna, because you get your Fox, NBC, and ABC games on. Buy an antenna. I have one. I've had one for years. I don't have to deal with it, and you don't have a delay. So if you check Twitter and you're 30 seconds or a minute behind, you get the most up to speed. Get an antenna.
Rabbit ears are the solution. Will, what about you, my friend? Biggest story of the day, and what did you do to get around the blackout restrictions that we had?
So my biggest storyline of the day is Virginia is now firmly in the driver's seat to get to Charlotte in the ACC championship, with Georgia Tech and Miami losing.
How about that?
Show of hands. And for Spotify and other podcast listeners, just know people are going to be raising their hands in a second. Raise your hands if you have had fun watching Virginia at some point this year.
Oh, hand up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Raise your hand if you had them winning at least 9 games in the preseason and got laughed at by major sports analysts like Shahan Jayaraja. Oh, wait, that was just me. That was just me. Listen, I thought 9 was a reach. If we're being honest, if I did make that prediction, so I am going to pound my chest a little bit. But 9 wins was a little stretch, even for someone like as crazy as me. But the offense for Virginia isn't even the best in the ACC, and I think that's what's the craziest thing. So the headline is Virginia is firmly in the driver's seat. I think the Puma in the back of the car, the big cat, is Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh has, believe it or not, scored more points this year than Virginia has, and has a much better defense than Virginia has. Virginia has a Swiss cheese defense, but can score with anyone except for UNC, apparently. And then Pittsburgh is quietly right behind them, sneaking up, lurking in the ACC. It's going to be a probably predominantly Northeast ACC championship game. And that's pretty wild to me.
Which is wild, considering.
If I could jump in on Pitt real quick, Mitch. What's crazy to me is when they made that quarterback change, I was very high on Pitt going into the season. I thought they were a dark horse candidate in the ACC, but when they made that quarterback change, I was thinking they were going to be lucky to go 6-6. Like, that is not a move that you make if you're confident in the prospects of your program for this season, I would say. Or maybe it's just a desperation move, but boy, has that worked out for them.
When they had lost to West Virginia. So like, wow, it must be really bad if you're making a quarterback change after losing to West Virginia, who replaced, I'm pretty sure, the janitorial staff. They even got them out of the transfer portal this year. They replaced so many people. So I was like, man, Pittsburgh, I thought they were going to be decent. I thought they were a bowl team. They're going to be terrible. And now we're in week 10, week 11, and Pitt's right there and has every opportunity to play. And another team that also has an opportunity to play in the ACC championship, believe it or not, is NC State. But that they're very, 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 very unlikely. The ACC is shaping out to be the Big 12 of last year. What we got out of the Big 12 last year is unexpected teams being up high and teams battling to the very, very end to get in. And I think Virginia is the only one who I would probably put my stamp on is going to be in there. And then the other team is still up in the air.
Yeah, I wouldn't say NC State has a chance. They have 3 conference losses. It would take.
They've got a chance to ruin seasons. I don't think they're going to make it to. Yeah, but I mean, they played a big spoiler yesterday. We'll get to the ACC in just a second because I have a full breakdown of the standings, and I want to get kind of y'all's thoughts on some temperature checks there. My storyline of the day was that the G5 playoff spot has never been more up for grabs. You saw Tulane, you saw Boise get walloped over the weekend. Maddox Madsen goes down with an ankle injury. I haven't seen an update on what that is, but Boise's offense never recovered after that. Fresno State just ran away from them. And then you've got a 6-way tie in the American right now. You've got James Madison in the Sun Belt. So we'll get to all of that in just a little bit. But as I was sitting there on my couch flipping through Spectrum channels, I was like, man, this American race is truly going to be maybe the most entertaining conference race down the stretch. We'll see. But guys, let's dive into the ACC because I wrote this in our notes. To me, the ACC stands for Atlantic Coast Coliseum right now. And I think this is going to be a true battle of the last team standing. The current standings, gentlemen, and you guys alluded to this already, Virginia sits atop the ACC. They're 8-1, 5-0 in conference play. Georgia Tech, who suffered their first loss yesterday, is 8-1 and 5-1. Pitt is 7-2, 5-1 in conference. Louisville is 7-1, 4-1 in conference. SMU is 6-3, 4-1 in conference. And Duke is 5-3, 4-1 in conference. What stands out about all of those teams, guys, is the losses. The teams that have dealt these leaders, these now new titans in the ACC losses. NC State has beat both Virginia, which was out of conference, and Georgia Tech. Louisville and West Virginia have beat Pitt. Louisville's loss was to Virginia. SMU lost to Wake in that inexplicable game last week. And then Duke's conference losses to Georgia Tech. Most notably, nowhere in that standings race is Miami, is Florida State. We have truly seen the and Clemson, unfortunately. Sorry, Will. Can't totally leave them. Can't totally leave them off the list. When you look at, and I've seen this list tweeted out multiple different places, the talent composite ranking for the ACC, ranking the teams 1 through 17 versus the actual standings, it's literally like we've inversed it, where the teams that were picked at the bottom of the conference are now at the top, and the teams that were, in many cases, national championship picks like Clemson, they're 3-5 right now. So overall, and Trey, I'll start with you. I'll bring you back in here. You have been obsessed with this race to Charlotte and this concoction that we're brewing on the East Coast. What do you do with this mess on Sunday morning?
Yeah, the crazy thing about it, and I've written about this a couple times now, is that barely any of these teams are playing each other down the stretch. So we still have a lot of opportunities for 11-1, one conference loss teams. There could still be as many as 3 of those teams down the stretch. And then the tiebreakers just have to sort themselves out. I could go on a rant about big conferences and odd numbered conferences and that just being silly at this point. But the bottom line is I think the ACC played themselves out of being a multi-bid league this weekend. I think that dream, I had 3 of them in our playoff projections this past week just because of the chaos scenario that could unfold with 3 11-1 teams and what the committee would have to figure out how to do. I think I'm down to the ACC being a 1-bid league until proven otherwise, unless something crazy happens like Georgia Tech knocking off Georgia, getting a big signature win.
Or
right?
Trey, what if Virginia wins out? So they're now 11-1, and then they lose in the conference championship game.
That could happen too. It would have to be like a backdoor bid thief scenario, right? Kind of like Clemson sneaking in last year and knocking off an 11-1 SMU. So
it's very similar to last year, is it not? I mean, where you had SMU who was like, everybody was like, oh, they'll be decent. And they come in and they go 11-1, and then they lose in the conference championship. And everyone's like, well, they don't deserve to be in. I think we'll be in the same exact boat. I think we're going to be in the same exact boat.
And I think, it would have to be Virginia, right? Unless it's 2 11-1 teams. That's the interesting scenario to me, because if Georgia Tech finds a way to win out, beats Georgia, I think beating Georgia would punch their ticket, regardless of what happened in the ACC championship game. But if it's an 11-1 Virginia and they lose that game, is the committee actually going to put Virginia into the college football playoff at 11-2? I don't know. That would be
I'm
very,
not sure
very
if they would. Because realistically, if you go and look at Virginia's wins, then their best win is Louisville. And other than that,
who could also finish 11-1? They are very much able to finish 11-1.
Who could? You know, that's they may look at that and say, hey, this is a good enough win with 2 losses. But I mean, you talk about the ACC, like the Big Ten, the SEC, like a lot of these conferences, the top portion of the contenders aren't really playing each other down the stretch. I mean, you look at an Indiana and Ohio State, like they don't play each other this year. USC is like quietly sneaking their way back in. They don't play, Ohio State or Indiana down the stretch. Like there's a lot of these potential contenders who don't play each other down the stretch. Pitt is the only exception to that. Pitt has an absolute gauntlet the next 3 weeks.
Notre Dame, Georgia Tech,
probably
Miami.
not. Yeah, Pitt is probably not going to make the playoff because if they lose one of those games, I think they're going to find them to kick them out because that loss to West Virginia is bad. It's very bad. And then they'll have 3 losses unless they find a way to win the ACC, like they're out. But I do agree with you, Trey. I think the ACC played themselves into being a one-bid league this weekend with Georgia Tech and Miami going down.
Just a curious thought. We've seen conference cannibalism before in the SEC and in the Big Ten. Why should the ACC be treated differently this year?
I think it will be because of the talent composition. You talk about where the teams are and where they were in the preseason. And believe it or not, no matter how much we want to hem and haw about the preseason rankings and the AP poll, some of that stuff is ingrained in your head. I mean, ESPN still wants to talk about Duke upsetting Clemson at home when Clemson's a 3-5 team. And they put it up there as a top headline. And it's like, is it really that big of a headline this year? And so Miami loses to SMU. That should be a headline. But the teams that are the upper echelon, aren't going to be involved. And regardless of what happens on the field, I think that preseason hype really plays a big role going deep into the schedule. And then plus the majority of your season, when you play in conference, no one likes a Wake Forest win. No one cares about a Boston College win, a UNC win, a Syracuse win. So when you're stacking these wins and building this resume, you go and look through. It's like, man, this dude's had some great jobs. He's a COO of a company. Oh, the COO has elementary school students in there. So you better have a good out of conference schedule, and you better be undefeated, or you don't have a choice. You don't have a chance. And to go back a little bit to what you were saying with what the top teams have to play. SMU is playing Boston College, Duke, and Cal to end it. SMU could very well only have one loss at the end of this. Virginia, Wake, Duke, and Virginia Tech. All 3 of those are losable. All 3 of those are winnable. Georgia Tech has a brutal one with Boston College, Pitt, and Georgia. So 2 remaining conference games. Pitt, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami. So if Pitt goes undefeated, I think then you get a 2-bid chance. Because if Pitt wins these last 3 games, if they beat a Notre Dame, they beat a Georgia Tech, and then they turn around and beat a Miami, they now have the resume to say that West Virginia game was a fluke. Yeah. So, but I think like a Pitt is the only one who can get in backdoor without winning the conference championship, in my opinion.
Well, and Pitt winning against Notre Dame would solve a problem for the ACC because it would knock Notre Dame out of the play.
Correct. And that's another at-large bid gone. You're right.
Yeah. But I think to your point, Will, these teams that we're talking about really did themselves no favors in their non-conference portion. Because if we're talking about an 8-1 Pitt that beat West Virginia, when there was no excuse other than rivalry to lose to West Virginia, it's a completely different conversation, right? When we talk about Virginia losing that non-conference game that they scheduled to NC State, when we talk about even SMU, right? If they just found a way to split against the Big 12, Mitch and I were at that Baylor game. It was 100% winnable, and they find a way to lose that game. They blew it, right? So they really did themselves no favors in the non-conference portion of the schedule, and that's why, to me, they're up against it when it comes to the bid math here.
I've got 2 quick questions for you guys on specific games. One about NC State, obviously upsetting number 8 Georgia Tech yesterday, 48-36, a game where no defense was played whatsoever. And then SMU upending the Canes, maybe ending Miami's season for all intents and purposes, as double-digit home dogs. They win that one 26-20. So, Walk-on, guys, I'll let you kind of decide who wants to take the NC State question, who wants to take the SMU question. But I want to know about Georgia Tech. How does losing to NC State, a team that has been dangerous, a team that we've seen flashes and glimpses from, how does giving up 48 to the Wolfpack on the road affect your confidence in Georgia Tech going forward?
I can take that one, Jake.
Go for it.
If you've watched NC State this year, they can score with the best of them. CJ Bailey is a phenomenal quarterback. Hollywood Smothers is a great running back. They've got dudes all over the offensive side of the ball. I'm forgetting the tight end's name, Jolly, what his first name is, but they've got some dudes that can freaking play on the offensive side of the ball. But the biggest bugaboo, which is essentially the entire top of the ACC, is where's the defense? So Georgia Tech, similar thing. People can move the ball up and down the field on Georgia Tech, but what Georgia Tech does best is they choke you out with time of possession. They run the football well, and then they can score with anybody. So you get in a situation against NC State, who also has a high-powered offense. You turn the ball over, and you go 3 and out in a couple drives. Game's over against a offense like NC State. Similar to when Virginia played NC State. That game was back and forth. It was whoever has the ball last is going to win that game. And it literally came down to that. So NC State, I think, kills Georgia Tech's opportunity to get in without other things happening as an at-large due to the fact that NC State is a bad football team overall. They haven't won the games that they've needed to win in order to be a resume, a good loss, so to speak, for Georgia Tech. So if Georgia Tech beats Georgia and Pitt and BC, and they go in the ACC championship, and then some other things happen, maybe Notre Dame loses to Pitt as well, maybe that opportunity for a multi-bid conference is there. But NC State is good enough to ruin people's season. They're not good enough to prop you up when you've lost to them, if that makes any sense. Plus, something Dabo used to tell us all the time, the committee remembers November. So this is the games that are right in front of us that have just now happened. People are going to remember this NC State loss come college football playoff ranking time, and then come playoff rankings when it goes to the 12 teams that get in.
Yeah, it's a tough start to the most critical data points, right? The playoff committee is getting ready to release their first rankings on Tuesday night, and we get that circus. So yeah, not the way Brent Key and his boys wanted to start. So Jake, go to you now. Miami's tradition of throwing away championships might be my favorite in all of college football.
I think we all love that.
I especially do with how much crap I've gotten from their fans this year.
You have gone through it.
Your prediction is still alive. I don't know.
It really is. I kept telling them, I said, this is way too early to start saying this is not happening. Maybe the Clemson one isn't going to happen.
Jake, what would you see from Miami? I mean, what is this a systemic problem? Is this a Cristobal problem? Like, you've got Carson Beck throwing his play calling staff under the bus in the press conference. Like, what is going on?
I mean, the first 2 games of the year, we all thought Carson Beck, hey, this is the 2023 version of him. This dude's slinging it. The last 3 games, they played Stanford, and he only threw for 189 yards on Stanford. And then SMU, 2 interceptions. Louisville, that awful game with Jake, 4 interceptions.
Can I add something to that, too? That's the second worst pass defense in the country, SMU.
Yeah.
Okay, but SMU, I will say, I did hear something. They are like first in interceptions in the country. I think they have 13 13 this year.
They better be. People throw the ball 60 times against them.
Yeah.
Statistically,
they do intercept the ball a lot. They let up a ton of yards, but they do intercept the ball a lot. But I mean, when it's crucial, when it's down to crunch time, sure enough, Carson Beck throws an interception in overtime. Like, I don't know what their game plan was that they were trying to do, but Carson Beck coming out and throwing his play caller under the bus after the game, it's never a good look. And Carson Beck, it just seems like every week right now, there's another excuse. It's not his fault. It's somebody else's. It's not his fault. It's somebody else's. It's the offensive line. It's the play calling. It's never, I had a bad game. And it didn't go well. It's just, it feels like Miami went to go get a quarterback that could sling the rock, kind of similar to what they thought, what they had with Cam Ward, but they didn't get the right personality to fit a team building, a culture building kind of guy. And I don't know. I put this out there today. I think that Mario Cristobal is just James Franklin at Miami. And I don't think that I'm that far off.
James Franklin is offended by that, by the way.
So because James Franklin would lose he would have lost to South Florida and Notre Dame, whereas Mario Cristobal likes to lose to the teams. Mario Cristobal is hipster James Franklin. He likes to lose to the teams that nobody else is picking. He's got to be different.
Let me pull out a stat that's going to shock you both, everybody here. Mario Cristobal, as a Power 4 coach, I'm taking his FIU days out because one year he was 1-11 there.
Yeah, that's not
he has a 67% win percentage. James Franklin has a 68% win percentage as a Power 4 coach.
Wow.
You tweeted this?
Yeah.
I gotta go. That's
they are 1% off as a head football coach at a Power 4 level. I mean, they're not exact, but to me, they are both the guy before the guy.
Have you seen Mario Cristobal and James Franklin in the room together?
They look very, very different.
I've never seen them in the same room together though.
They are very, very different. They're very similar coaches because they're the guy before the guy. They're the guy who brings in and builds the culture, brings in the talent, gets the program ready, but they're not the game manager to actually take you to the next level. Look at all the mistakes that James Franklin made.
Mark Richt.
When he went through all of these, the 4th and 5 for when Penn State played Ohio State, all these mismanaged games that they lost that they should have won. And then you look at Mario Cristobal when they should have kneeled it against Georgia Tech and they fumbled it and Georgia Tech went down. To me, they're very similar. They cannot manage the game that well. They both can recruit talent. They both can bring it in, but they can't get over the hump. They can't get over the hump. And to me, that's why I think they're the same coach. And I think Mario Cristobal is just going to be a 9-3 coach at Miami. 9-3, 8-4. Maybe he makes a playoff every so often. They get the right group, but they're not they will never be a national championship contender under Mario Cristobal.
That is interesting that your winning percentage stat, because, and like Will said, it's like Cristobal is kind of the artistic James Franklin, and where he's like, I'm not just going to lose to, top 10 teams. Like, I'm going to lose to some real head scratchers, and I'm going to do it in the most hilarious way you've seen possible. I do think that for all that college football fans, cry and moan when their coach doesn't win a game, I think we're just seeing that it's I think never been easier to rack up wins in college football, but it's never been harder to win a championship, to set your team apart, because it's not just 1 or 2 Titans that you've got to get through at the end of the year. You can lose at any given Saturday. It really is turning into the NFL light in more ways than one. And I think that parity is really evident in the way that it's poking holes and, coaches that their fan bases previously thought were bulletproof, right? Thought that they were their golden ticket to a conference championship, to a national championship. So I love that. I love that stat. I will absolutely race over to our Twitter and retweet that.
And Mitch, I'll add to that real quick.
Go for it.
I think you're going to start seeing college football mirror the NFL in the sense where you can lose some games now and your coach is still going to be safe. You've got right now, James Franklin is coming off of a college football semifinal finish and then struggled. And because of his past, his past transgressions, he's walked out middle of the year, not even middle of the year, beginning of the year. Similar with a lot of these guys now. I think front offices are going to start showing their coaches a little bit more grace because there is more parity. Gone are the days where you can just stack talent and have eons of depth. So where you have a couple guys out and then you go and play a Syracuse, you go and play at SMU who's kind of meddling and still stomp them. Those days are gone now because the guy that was going to be your backup is now playing at that school that you should go over there and dominate. Does that make sense? Like the second, there's such a much bigger gap between your first and second string than there's ever been. And yes, you still have your anomalies in your Texas who will still pay their backups to be, or even a Georgia Tech whose backup's quarterback is probably better than the starter. And you don't see that everywhere else. You really don't. And it's before NIL, teams could just roster stack. I mean, they had all this talent stacking that they could do, and they knew they were just going to roll people in and get them all playing time, and it was all going to be hunky-dory. You can't do that anymore. You actually have to have roster management. You actually have to be able to have game management to keep people safe and keep people healthy. And, it's causing more parity. And then I think in the next couple of years, you're going to start seeing some more coaches staying a little bit longer after a bad season or two. I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and I do wonder if maybe that prevents coaches from jumping ship quite as quick, right? I mean, like in the past, Lane Kiffin's probably automatically out the door to LSU in Florida. And I know there's 1,000 things going on internally with those athletic departments, but I think job security and understanding what you have might be more important than the shiny new toy or upgrade or whatever it might be in the coaching circle as well.
Oh, sorry, Trey, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to throw in, as fans and people observing the sport, we need to adjust our expectations too, because it's all fine and good. Yeah, I think coaches should survive a slightly down year, but then you have a fan base like LSU who is still going to feel like they should be going 12-1, 13-0 every single year. And that's just not going to be possible. And that's a weird situation. I think you have to have a good personality and win over your fans too. And Brian Kelly is nothing if not, an awful personality. But we got to adjust our expectations too, because this is the biggest reset we've seen in college football. NIL is the biggest reset we've seen since scholarship limits were implemented. That was the last time we saw a big parity shift like this.
And I'll add too, how often are these front offices going to be willing to fork out $20+ million to let a coach walk out the door while their contract's still active?
As often as the booster wants it done.
Yeah.
You got a billionaire,
I think
they'll make it happen.
One of two things is going to happen. The coaches' contracts are going to change how they're set up. They're going to be a lot more short term and school friendly, or they're still going to be long term and they're just going to ride it out, because I don't think people are going to continue to pay that amount of money over and over and over again. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not. I don't have billions of dollars.
I would say I think you got enough 100 millionaires and billionaires out there that are going to say, you know what, like, we're going to win. Like, we're going to win, and sports is going to run this to school, and we are going to win. I mean, Hugh Freeze is likely getting fired today, but it's like $15 million. So, like, to Auburn, like, their boosters of nothing. I mean, they've unleashed the door. The Jimbo buyout was one thing, but now that you saw Penn State make a $50 million buyout, like, I think all bets are off.
Not yet. Penn State might not have to pay it.
That's a good point. I do think last word on this. We'll move to the SEC. I think that for these boosters, this feels like the most tangible form of sports gambling that they can get their hands on. Right? No, but seriously, like, Trey's laughing, but for real, they physically get to pull the strings and decide outcomes for their football program. So, you and I might put a little bit of currency down on Underdog Fantasy. Use code 3TechPod for free $100 in bonus funds if you'd like. Cash a check. We get to play those little amounts or whatever we feel comfortable with. These big time donors that feel immortal, that feel bulletproof with all the money that they have, if there's a chance that they get to go win a championship and right the ship and feel like, hey, I made this happen, I bankrolled the next, decade of dominance at my school, I've got to feel like that's intoxicating for some of these boosters. And it certainly seems like it is, because as incomprehensible to us as bankrolling all of these coaching changes seems, and as useless as some of this process feels like, where we're just going to be right back at square one in 3 to 4 years, I think there is some factor, some force that is pushing these donors to continue to try and do this. So an interesting thing to obviously watch and keep our eyes on. Jake, you mentioned Hugh Freeze probably out at Auburn. I've started to see some Auburn folks tweet some ominous things. They canceled
all staff meetings this afternoon. It feels like it's happening.
Cole Kubelik.
They scored 3 points against Kentucky. I mean, he should get some grace on that.
Well, the best tweet I saw was that the Toronto Blue Jays scored more than Auburn football did yesterday.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze asked for patience in his post-game press conference. That went about as well as I think you can imagine it did on Twitter. Cole Kubelik tweeted about an hour ago that that's all folks Looney Tunes script. So I'm betting Hugh Freeze is out the door by the time that this is published in the podcasting sphere. So, Monday morning, congratulations.
I just saw that on 3. I believe it is official.
That he's out?
I believe that it is officially official.
Okay.
On 3 tweet 5 minutes ago, Hugh Freeze has been fired. So
okay. Well, there you go.
Breaking news.
Well, so I guess let's start there just very quickly, because I want to get to Texas and Vanderbilt, and then I think Trey's got to run here. What would you grade the Auburn job as? I'm not necessarily asking for a coaching candidate or a fit. Give Auburn a letter grade on desirability.
It's a solid A-, I think.
No.
Oh, wait. Jake says C+.
C+.
Trey says A-. Okay, Trey.
C+.
Start with the A-.
Okay. You have all the money you need. You have everything you need. You have access to talent. You have resources. You have an empowered fan base. You have other sports on campus that have shown that you can win at the highest level. I know what Jake is going to say. I know that there's a very clear roadblock in state, and there's a very clear roadblock next door that you have to play every single year.
Jacksonville State?
Yes, Jacksonville State. The Gamecocks are always going to be a thorn in the side of the Auburn Tigers every single year. But no, we're less than a decade away from them playing for national championships. How many schools can you say that about? Not very many. I think that this is a school that, yes, their fans are going to be very eager for success very quickly, but when you compare nationally, there are not going to be very many schools where you have the ability to compete for national championships at the level you do Auburn. It's going to be hard, but if they find the right guy and commit to a system like they did with Gus Malzahn in those early years, they can find a way. And it's a very tough place to play at Jordan-Hare. So in those years, especially where they get Alabama or Georgia at home, that's going to be another built-in advantage.
That's Jordan-Hare, sir. Jake, you are out on Auburn. You are passing them by as you drive down the road. Why?
So, Trey, your point of resources, money. Okay, Georgia's got resources and money. Texas A&M has resources and money. Texas has resources and money. LSU, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee has resources and money. What makes Auburn that much better of a job? You are little brother. Like, there's no way around it. You are little brother in the state. As much as you want it to be a rivalry, right now in the last 20 years, you are little brother. And until you find a way that you are not little brother in your own state, I mean, Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin is a better job right now. I just don't see how the Auburn is that much better of a job that you're walking into, where you look around your conference and you legitimately have 7 or 8 national championship contenders and go, yeah, we're going to find a way to win here in the next 5 or 10 years. I would rank it below Penn State. I'd rank it below LSU. I'd rank it below Florida. Like, I would, it's above Arkansas for sure, but I think it is clearly below Florida.
Or Arkansas.
Arkansas's a terrible job. Arkansas and Kentucky are like terrible jobs. So I don't know why anybody would want to
play devil's advocate, Jake. All the schools you compare them to that have resources besides South Carolina are legitimate playoff teams.
Yeah.
So
and you have to play them all for the next couple of years.
Right.
Good luck.
But to Trey's point, they're in that conversation with all of them. They have the ability to compete with them. And because you're already there, it won't take long to get them back on track. I think I would lay snugly in, but I don't think so though. Like
Cam Coleman's gone, like Eric Singleton's gone. You don't have a quarterback. Like, you're walking into a situation that's a bare cupboard because
Deuce Knight could be legit. We don't know that.
Well,
we don't know that.
And if Hugh Freeze wouldn't have had his head up his butt in portal acquisition of quarterback this year, they would have found a way to be very competitive this year, I think.
True. The fact that he is such this offensive guru. So I think Auburn, to support you, Jake, it looks so bad right now. And Jake is lashing out with a little brother take, by the way. He's heard that so many times from Michigan people, he has to say it right now. So just y'all bear with him.
In our lifetimes, Ohio State has more wins than Michigan. Unless you were born over 100 years ago, Ohio State has more wins than Michigan. Just like to point that one out.
Has Ohio State
when they played with leather helmets, that's when Michigan won all their games.
Oh, there it is.
Green Bay's playing with leather helmets right now. But what I will say is, I got off track. We might just need to go ahead and go. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so Hugh Freeze comes in as his offensive guru, and he comes in. He's like, well, we got Peyton Thorne. Next year, we're going to be great when I have my guy.
Yeah.
Well, he goes and gets Jackson Arnold out of the portal. Did he get Jackson Arnold out of the portal because that's who he wanted, or is that who was left? And I think he wasn't aggressive enough in the portal. So they go get Deuce Knight. I think he spent all his time trying to get Deuce Knight.
He did.
And then it's like, okay, I have this guy coming on campus, but I need someone who can play now. Maybe it's Jackson Arnold. Maybe it's the last pickings of the transfer portal quarterback. So I get Jackson Arnold to come in. Well, I'm such a smart guy offensively. I can make Jackson Arnold succeed. A lot of offensive coordinators are like that. They think, oh, that guy's broken. I can fix him. I see what he has. He hasn't been able to. So you get into the season, and now you're in camp, and you're watching Deuce Knight, this number 1, number 2, whatever quarterback rank he was, coming into the program. You're like, oh boy, we're going to have to play Jackson Arnold because this guy's not ready. Mm-hmm. And you just handcuffed yourself, and now as an offensive guru, you've played 3 seasons without a quarterback.
And that's inexcusable in the portal.
It is. It absolutely
for a quarterback guy. For a quarterback developer,
that's my
right?
point. It's a quarterback guy.
It's inexcusable. And you mentioned Peyton Thorne. He saw a season of Peyton Thorne and then said, let me sign up for another one.
Yeah.
And not go quarterback in the portal last year. So he really, that's why I think Auburn is not as bad as it seems.
Listen to these quarterbacks that have played for Hugh Freeze. Robbie Ashford.
Yeah.
Peyton Thorne.
He's somehow still playing football.
Jackson Arnold, but none of them are good.
Right.
Yeah.
Peyton Thorne had his best year at Michigan State when he was throwing the ball to Keon Coleman, and still wasn't even that good at Michigan State. Comes to Auburn and is just terrible. And like you said, he said, run it back. Let's do it again. And you know what? Let's get a guy who throws the ball worse than him but can run, and Robbie Ashford. And let's see what we can do with that too. So this year you have Deuce Knight, which I would assume would be your Peyton Thorne, and your Jackson Arnold, which is your Robbie Ashford with some girth to him. Because Hugh Freeze loves his length and his girth.
I have a question here. I want to kind of pose this here. Okay, we're going to play a this or that real quick. Would you rather have the Auburn job or this one? Would you rather have Auburn or Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Yeah. Would you rather have Auburn or A&M?
A&M. They're biased. Yeah. You can't ask them that.
Would you rather have Auburn or Oklahoma?
Auburn.
I would say Oklahoma.
Really?
I know.
Oklahoma's like almost blue blood.
Well,
but Oklahoma hasn't done anything since leather helmets, Jake. And now they're competing against Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech.
I think the issue with Oklahoma is they lost their longtime athletic director, and so there's going to be some instability there. But overall, I'd much rather be a part of the Oklahoma athletic department than I would the Auburn athletic department, and run a football team in that.
I would 100% take Oklahoma over Auburn. That is shocking that it's even a discussion.
Oh, it should be a discussion. Auburn's won a national championship sooner than the Sooners have.
Only by a decade. It's not like
how many years did Oklahoma have a cakewalk to the 14 playoff and they could never get it done?
That's an Alex Grinch problem.
That's a separate discussion.
Yeah. You really want to go down the Alex Grinch rabbit hole? Okay, yeah, we'll do that. But Oklahoma, I mean,
Jake loves that hole.
Heisman Trophy winners. You want to talk about? I mean, Auburn has Cam Newton, and if it wasn't for a singular Cam Newton year, Gus Malzahn and that whole thing. Well, that was Gene Chizik. But
was Chizik, yeah.
Chizik. But still, like, you take that away, and that is like
the same person.
A completely different timeline in our heads about Auburn.
They were right back in it. What, 2014? Didn't they play in the national championship against?
Yeah, they
almost played for the SEC title in 17.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, if you take that Cam Newton year away, they're no different than Washington right now, because Washington they made it, but they lost. It does.
That's
like
interesting.
The whole Moneyball thing. Nobody cares unless you win the last game of the year.
That certainly can be.
Ask Toronto. Ask the Blue Jays that.
Exactly. They're struggling. But then
I just want to say LSU I would take Auburn over Tennessee also.
Hold on. I got to hear this.
Oh my goodness.
I disagree with you.
But did you see their entrance last night?
Auburn. Yeah, hey, is this Trey Freeze? Trey Freeze, big Auburn stand. I always thought you were a Texas A&M guy. I should have known.
To be fair, Tennessee did not win that game, no matter how sick.
But their entrance was awesome.
That was
awesome. All right. Well, goodness, what an explosive landmine we stepped on with Hugh Freeze and Auburn there. Thank you to On3 for breaking that news, because boy, I think that might be a few social media clips this week. Trey, as we delve further into the SEC, and we'll keep this relatively short, give me your thoughts on Texas, their win over Vanderbilt. It's a top 10 win. I know the folks in Austin are really excited about this. Arch throws for 328 yards. The offense looked like they remembered the screen pass, and the quick hitters were available. We can get into Texas defense almost blowing it at the end, but just kind of general observations from the Horns and the Doors.
Massive win for the Longhorns. Got to start there. There's some people out there that might say that I will not give Texas credit, and here's me giving Texas credit. That was a massive win with your season on the line, with your SEC championship hopes on the line. You came out from the word go, and like you said, it was
first play,
remembering what's successful on offense. I saw someone tweet, I can't remember who it was, but basically that Arch finally got the Quinn Ewers playbook, and that is huge. Get it to your weapons in space, scheme it open, get those quick completions. It took one Vanderbilt missed tackle to go 75 yards on the opening play, and Vanderbilt, for their part, was not interested in tackling pretty much the entire first half. But credit to Texas for figuring out what was working, sticking to what was working. That's what's been a big contention point, and allowing Vanderbilt to make those mistakes and taking advantage of them. So they did a great job. That's what championship caliber teams do. And yes, it got away in the second half, but it was I think it was a lot of prevent defense. They were up 34-10 at the start of the fourth quarter.
Yes. Yeah.
Almost let it slip away. That onside kick, I know, had the Texas fans, very nervous as it was squirting out of the multiple different people that had hands on it. But yeah, great win for Texas. Is Arch good now? He had a great day yesterday. Now he's got to go do it again next week. Keep doing it. Can he go into Sanford Stadium and lead them to a win? that's the next check mark. So he did a great job executing the game plan yesterday. Credit to Sark for making him getting a better game plan around him and not forcing him to do the things that he was struggling with earlier in the season. He still had those highlight reel throws. He still had a couple that you're scratching your head, but credit to him for executing the game plan, and we'll see the next checkbox. I think they have a bye and then go to Georgia after that. So that's a huge, huge matchup.
You can tell you what the biggest difference in the game was? It wasn't Texas finally unloading the clip on offense. It was the fact that they held Vanderbilt to 58 yards rushing. 58 yards rushing on a team that absolutely needs Diego Pavia to build his confidence by running the football, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I mean, Diego
365 yards through the air, but they could not run the football.
And also the pass rush battle, Will. It was, I think they had 6 sacks and
didn't give up one offensively.
Yeah, Vanderbilt did not have any sacks generated defensively against that offensive line that was really struggling coming in.
Jake, your storyline was that Vanderbilt's kind of charm season is essentially over. So give me your thoughts kind of on Vanderbilt, where they go from here. Like, what do you come away with as a Vanderbilt fan?
Yeah. I don't think it's quite over, but I want to say it's on life support here because you have 2 losses in conference. You really don't have a path to make the SEC championship at this point. There's too many tiebreakers that even if there is a 2 loss, you can't assume that you'll be the one. You play Auburn now, who just fired their coach. You play Kentucky, who is terrible. So you should win your next 2. There's still an outside chance that you need to come back your next 2 games, and you just need to take care of business. These can't be close games. You cannot keep Auburn in it. You cannot let Kentucky be in it. You have to go out and win by 3 scores, basically. And then you've got the big matchup at the end of the year against Tennessee, who is likely eliminated from the playoffs now with 3 losses. And Tennessee is going to be looking to play spoiler here and make sure that Vandy doesn't. So you have to, just, like I said, take care of business these next 2 games, and then all eyes on Tennessee. All eyes on Tennessee. Can you beat Tennessee and give yourself a legitimate conversation for the playoff? Because you have wins over Missouri. You have wins over LSU. That's what you're really hanging your hat on. A win over Tennessee might be enough to push them towards that second half of the playoff.
Jake, let me ask you. It comes down to the committee. There's teams on the bubble. Vandy or Virginia, who's getting in?
Vandy.
Georgia Tech or Vandy? And let's just assume both teams win out.
Oh, that case, I'm probably taking Georgia Tech as the win over Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Pitt or Vanderbilt?
I think probably that won't be close because they'd have some good wins there at the end of the year. I might. It would depend if Pitt made the ACC championship and how they looked in that to me.
Yeah. Vanderbilt or Louisville?
Louisville. If they only have 1 loss, I think Louisville takes it over Vandy.
And then Vandy or Miami?
Vandy.
That's it. Can you imagine being the guy in the committee room to be the first one to speak up and say Vanderbilt over Miami? Like that would be a landmark moment. We have to give that a due.
That person would be Cindy Lou Who. Do you know, like when everybody's mad about Christmas being taken away, and Cindy Lou Who speaks up?
Yeah.
Whoever that is the person that's protecting Vanderbilt over Miami, or is choosing Vanderbilt over Miami.
It's a good visual. That's a good visual.
They always say in the college football playoff that recency actually matters, like how you played. Like Miami, yes, they had the win over Notre Dame earlier in the year, USF. But if Miami is struggling down the stretch like we are seeing them do, I think the committee is going to have a hard time putting them in that top 12.
See, but the end of their schedule, the end of their schedule is Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt. So the first 3 games before they get to Pitt are games where they can really change the committee's mind and say, "Wow, they just blew out. They're on a roll. They're on a warpath."
You're assuming they blow them out and they don't win by like 7 points.
They can. They have the opportunity. And if there's a team that's going to beat them out of those 3,
yeah, and I have the opportunity to date Sydney Sweeney.
You do. Everyone does. Everyone does. It's just what are the odds?
I don't even know what to do with that. Trey, we got to get you out of here on that. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate the report from Rice-Eccles Stadium. We'll see you back on Wednesday for the preview episode.
Did you just say you appreciate the Reich? Did that just happen, Mitch?
Oh, God.
The report from Rice-Eccles Stadium. Let me make that very, very clear.
As a blonde-haired man,
Oh
you got
my
to be careful
goodness.
with that one.
Oh my word.
Oh
Mitch,
my
good luck
goodness.
keeping this show on the rails, brother. We'll talk to y'all
Thank
later.
you. I will do my best. I'm
See you,
playing
Trey.
zone defense now at this point, just 1-on-2. All right, gentlemen, let's move through the rest of the SEC, and these can be quick hitters. I want you to give me a confidence meter on a scale of 1 to 5. Georgia beat Florida 24-20 yesterday. You had Ole Miss kind of pull away late from South Carolina, win 30-14. Give me your confidence meter on Georgia and Ole Miss being championship contenders.
Championship, national or conference?
Let's do national championship contenders.
Okay. Georgia, I would put at a 3 because they haven't done anything that's convinced me that they can take that step against the upper echelon. Your Indiana's, your Ohio State's, your Texas A&M's, and naturally Georgia doesn't play Texas A&M. But when they've played in these big time games, yes, they've won. They've looked very, very, very vulnerable. I mean, even against Kentucky, even against who they play last week. Why is it slipping my brain? Florida. It gets Florida. And Florida, don't get me wrong, Florida is a very talented, good football team that just happens to have a winning problem. They can't seem to finish it at the end. But Georgia hasn't done enough to convince me that they should be in the upper echelon of national championship contenders. Should they make the college football playoff and possibly make a run? Absolutely. But I don't think they're competing with the top 3, the upper echelon of the group.
I'm putting Georgia at a 4. I believe in Kirby Smart because he's done it. He's won 2 national championships. He's been to the playoff multiple times. They have the talent. I mean, they beat Ole Miss earlier this year, so I have more confidence in Georgia than I do Ole Miss. I think there's a part of me that's still not fully sold on Trinidad Chambliss. As much as I love the story and I love the player, he still is coming from Division II. What's it going to look like when he gets in the college football playoff there? What's it going to look like when you have to stack games on top of this? It's not, well, my defense can take care of it. My rush game. It's like, no, you're going to have great games in order to continue to win these. Georgia has a tougher schedule down the stretch than Ole Miss does because Ole Miss has Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. I think Ole Miss is almost certainly going to be in the playoff. Georgia has a little bit tougher schedule. I mean, they have one loss. Could they lose to Texas? Could they lose to Georgia Tech? What happens when if they make the SEC championship game? Because that's not a guarantee right now. Alabama and Texas A&M are in the driver's seat. But if they lose to Texas, they lose to Georgia Tech. I mean, their chances are over. But I have to think they win at least one of them, if not both. And I think a 10-2 Georgia team, it's going to be impossible to keep them out with a win over Ole Miss, a win over Tennessee, and a win over a Georgia Tech or a Texas team.
And I think I'm flipped. I think I'm a 4 on Ole Miss.
Okay.
And even though they lost to Georgia?
Yes. And so that's a good point, too. The way that Georgia plays is a perfect matchup against Ole Miss. And I think if they played again, I think Ole Miss would come out on top. And what I've liked out of Trinidad Chambliss is, and did Trinidad Chambliss remind me, did he or Austin Simmons play in that game against Georgia?
They both did.
They both did. Okay. I feel like if it's
it was mainly Trinidad.
Okay.
Wasn't that when they were putting Austin Simmons in like random spots and it was looking terrible?
He's been in both Georgia and Oklahoma, I think, but Trinidad started.
Okay,
Oklahoma was the one that I'm thinking of then.
What Trinidad Chambliss was able to do against Oklahoma, man, that changed me from a feel-good story to a legitimate freaking quarterback. They struggled against LSU, which didn't look good. The thing that worries me about Ole Miss is their defense. And the fact that they gave up 19 to LSU, which doesn't sound like a lot. LSU's offense is horrendous. And I'm more confident in what Ole Miss's offense can do in those big-time games than I am in what Georgia can do as an overall team. And that's the only reason I give them a 4. Realistically, maybe they're a 3.5.
When Georgia put the screws to that Ole Miss defense, they broke, right?
Yes,
and that's my concern with Ole Miss as well. I think as a true championship contender, I think I lean both of them honestly is like a 3.5. Georgia, I think, is the worst Power 4 team at getting to the quarterback. They just cannot get sacks this year. There's no pressure to speak of, which is so bizarre for a Georgia Bulldogs team. And I don't know if there's just something I don't really trust about Georgia's roster right now and the product that I see on the field. I love Kirby. I absolutely would take him 9 times out of 10, but the Bulldogs as a football team in whole just feel like they're kind of living on some borrowed time. Ole Miss, I don't think is as complete of a team as I would want a true championship contender to be, but that offense can score with anybody. And so given the fact that you could get into a shootout with, an Ohio State and Indiana, maybe that gives Ole Miss a chance. So I think 3.5, maybe 4 for both. They're not my first picks, but I do think that they're both certainly capable of doing it. Real quick, we'll move on from the SEC. Oklahoma quieting Neyland. They win 33-27. It was kind of a garbage time touchdown for Tennessee that got it close there. I was impressed with what we saw from Oklahoma's defense specifically. That the pass rush ate Tennessee's offensive line up. Are you guys buying Oklahoma as a team that can continue to, kind of prop up their season? They're not out of it yet. They basically eliminated Tennessee yesterday. You buying Oklahoma, or are you just kind of saying, "Oh, that's a nice story. That's some nice improvements," and we'll see you at 9-3.
I think what I saw in John Mateer makes me want to hold on to my stock. I don't know if I've sold it yet. I was close. When you have a quarterback that has surgery on his throwing hand, not too good now. But the defense has been good enough to keep them in every single game they've played. John Mateer, the way he looked against Tennessee, albeit a very terrible Tennessee defense, he was making some throws and had some zip on his passes that he hadn't had in the past couple of weeks. So I'm feeling more confident in Oklahoma. I thought the running game looked decent compared to the rest of the season. Now, Tennessee was getting after the quarterback as well, which they have been. I think they lead the SEC in sacks, and they lead the SEC in causing turnovers. They're just bottom in everything else in the defense. Yeah. So I think this cements Oklahoma as a legitimate contender to make it to the college football playoff. But I think based off of what their offense has been able to do, they're not winning a national championship this year by any means.
I'm out because they play Alabama next game at Alabama, and that season's over. So they're losing to Alabama in 2 weeks. Now I'm not even going to entertain this discussion.
What did South Carolina do when they played Alabama?
They lost to Alabama,
but they had them on the ropes. And Oklahoma is a much better team than South Carolina is.
Jake's talking money.
We know the transitive property does not work in college football. Oklahoma. Alabama
They're similar teams.
Beat Tennessee worse. Alabama beat Tennessee worse.
They're similar teams, but the offensively, defensively, Oklahoma is bar none leaps and bounds ahead of South Carolina.
If this game was in Norman, maybe, but it's in Tuscaloosa. This ain't happening.
So the thing that makes me have pause on what you're saying, Jake, is Alabama's one-dimensional offensively. And when you have a defense as good as Oklahoma is, and you have a defense coordinator, also head coach, as good as Brent Venables is that. Man, I don't want to. I'm not as blasé about this game as you are. It's also a
revenge game. It's also a revenge game.
That's true.
Black hoodie will be on for DeBoer. I think we can solidify that.
I'm gonna. Sorry for the explicit, but this is gonna be belt to ass for Alabama. I'm already calling it.
Jake, based off of what I said earlier, I think you're good with that word.
I need to see on the Walk-on Twitter account. I need to see some sort of bet this week then, because it seems like you guys are kind of diametrically opposed. I need some sort of wager.
2 weeks, but yeah, that game's in 2 weeks. The LSU plays Alabama this weekend.
We do need to bet on that game, Jake.
That's fair.
Oh, it's good. We'll have it. Don't worry.
Good. I will retweet that when y'all come up with that. Gentlemen, we've got a 6-way tie in the American. I teased this off the top. I am all in on that. We have currently Navy, Memphis, UNT, Tulane, USF, and ECU all only have a single loss in the conference. Now, that does not mean that they're all, I think, in contention to make the playoff, because if you had, at this point, I'll be honest, Tulane that manages to somehow win out, they win the American Championship. I think if James Madison does the same, I think the Dukes are in. But it does make for an incredible finish to soar the Eagles' conference schedule. The playoff contenders really appear to be Memphis, North Texas, and South Florida in my estimation. I think Navy's going to probably get whooped here in their next couple weeks. They lost to North Texas yesterday. They've still got to play Notre Dame. They have to play Pitt. They've got a difficult close.
Navy has Notre Dame, South Florida, and Memphis. But they might lose all three of them.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think we found out a lot about them.
Yeah, that's going to work itself out. But Memphis has Tulane at ECU versus Navy. North Texas has the easiest schedule of the three, with all due respect to Temple, at UAB, at Rice versus Temple. And then USF plays UTSA at Navy, at UAB versus Rice. So is there a team out of the American that you like to make the college football playoff, or at this point, would you say James Madison is in the driver's seat there?
I think if North Texas wins out, then I think they are. I think that offense, like,
Don't mean Green,
people
baby.
see how many points that they score. And granted, that USF loss is kind of ugly with them almost dropping 70 on them that night. And they could have as they were sitting at the 10-yard line with the time winding down. But I think beating Navy like that, people aren't going to slouch at that. I think it's Memphis or North Texas to me. It's one of those two. Memphis losing to UAB was ugly, but I think Memphis might be the better overall complete team in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think North Texas is just the more fun team. I think North Texas, though, if you put them up against a solid defense in the college football playoff, it would get ugly quick. I think Memphis could potentially hold their own longer.
Now, this is if the American or the G spot for the college football playoff was a pageant, the G5 team that gets in, you got to be sexy. And I think that's what puts North Texas ahead of everybody else, because everyone likes to talk about North Texas because you have a quarterback that can throw for 600 yards in the game. Not making that up. He literally did that. So because of that appeal to the committee, they have the odds on favorite, in my opinion, to get in, because the committee that they see that and they hear that, and that's how you sell yourself. And again, this is a beauty pageant. How do I put lipstick on this pig to make myself get in? And North Texas is the sexiest G5 team out there, bar none. USF being close behind. Memphis, for some reason, I don't think they get enough love. I think they're a phenomenal complete football team, like Jake was saying, and I think they can beat you in multiple ways. USF is similar to UNT in which they play great offense, but it's more of the rushing attack, and then they'll kind of sprinkle in some pass.
Yeah,
I think UNT is the favorite to get in there, and then James Madison would be my second out of the group of five.
Don't sleep on San Diego State, though. They're lurking. San Diego State's out here lurking with one loss in the Mountain West.
And UNLV just lost, correct?
Yeah.
I think
to New Mexico. And
so
Boise got waxed by Fresno State.
So it's San Diego State's race to win out in the Mountain West.
They don't have any great wins. They lost to Washington State, but San Diego State's out here lurking. If there's some chaos out here, JMU loses one. American gets a little cannibalized. I think San Diego State could sneak in, and then they can get waxed in the playoffs.
They could, but I don't think they will, because, again, we go back to the pageant analogy. You have San Diego State, who's going to win Miss Congeniality. Very smart, very pretty, great smile. We know they know what they're doing. And then you got North Texas, who might not be able to point to where their state is on a map, but Lord have mercy, do you like watching them out there, right? So that's what we're going to get, and that's what the committee's going to pick. I mean, how much do you see about San Diego
I'm
State?
saying San Diego State has to have chaos. They're not going to get over North Texas. Yeah. They need. That's what I'm saying. They need chaos because they don't have any good wins. San Diego State actually, they just play great defense. They have 3 shutouts already this year. Yeah. So.
Which is sick. UNT throws for 608 yards. Yeah, San Diego State's out here pitching shutouts. I mean, I think there's something to be said for the solid Friday night starter, right? Guys, let's get you out of here on this. I want your top story from the Big 12 and the Big 10. These could be drive-bys. I want to know if you were impressed by Texas Tech. I want to know if you were just devastated like I was with Houston laying an egg at home to West Virginia. What'd you think of the USC win? We'll start with you. Just give me kind of your AP headline for the Big 10 and the Big 12.
So Texas Tech might be the best team at playing a team close up until like the last 5 minutes and then making it look like a blowout on the box score.
Sure.
I mean, they've done that to Utah. They've done that to Kansas State. Now it is unbelievable how if you just turned on your TV this morning, which you didn't because YouTube TV won't give you this information now, but if you turn on the box scores and saw Texas Tech beating Kansas State 43-20, you would not know that it was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a 10-point, but it was a close game. I think this is a Texas Tech or Utah league at this point. And
no BYU. You're out on BYU.
Oh, I forgot. God, I always forget about BYU. I am the biggest BYU hater on accident. I don't mean to do it. BYU Texas Tech would be a beautiful game, but you just know there's something cool.
They play this weekend.
Yeah, I've got news for you, brother. They're college game day this next week.
That's awesome. Listen, not having YouTube TV has really screwed me. BYU and Texas Tech, they could still play in the Big 12 championship, is my point.
They could, yes.
And the way I'm getting there just doesn't make any sense. You just got this is a
a roller
windy
coaster.
road. This is a dirt road. The GPS doesn't follow you on my roads, baby. Texas Tech, Utah, BYU, and then I think everybody else has cannibalized themselves. Very similar to the ACC. I think Iowa State has no shot after Arizona State beating them. I think with Sam Leavitt being out
Iowa
for the
State's
year,
2-4 in conference. Why are we even talking
it's
about them?
Iowa State's done.
Arizona State has no shot now with Sam Leavitt being out for the year. They're not going to be able to
Jeff
consistently
Sims
beat
ran. It
anybody.
looked like Lamar Jackson yesterday, running for 230 yards.
Houston is. I think they got exposed a little bit against West Virginia. Their defense is weaker than we thought. Cincinnati, I think they got exposed a little bit in this game. I mean, their defense is much weaker than I thought. And shout out to Devin Dampier. We talked about it at the very beginning of the show of how they're a run-first team. That dime he threw in the second half, that 45-yard dime to his receiver. I mean, I was like, okay, Devin, maybe you can throw the ball a little bit. But I think this is Texas Tech's league to lose. Even though BYU's undefeated.
Good asterisk. Way to circle back. Jake, what about you?
There's 11 teams that are still eligible to make the Big 12 championship in the Big 12.
And
like, there's still 11 teams. Like, there's still an opportunity for Arizona and Kansas State.
I forget about Arizona.
Well, they're 2 and 3 in conference.
They're 2 and 3.
How do they play everybody so well?
Down to Arizona can still make the Big 12 championship. Now there has to be absolute chaos. But to me, the biggest headline here is out of the 11, there's really 4. I think Cincinnati can still redeem themselves. They have BYU. If they somehow find a way to beat BYU at home, there's a really good chance they can make it. Texas Tech, I mean, they are playing with fire that Will Hammond is now out. Is Baron Morton just Cam Rising reincarnated? And if Cam Rising 2.0 gets hurt, they're playing a quarterback that nobody's ever heard of. And this dude, I believe he's like a 5th-year player who's barely ever played. Texas Tech, they're going to have to rely on that defense. And I don't know if they can play a bend don't break with basically an offense that can't move the ball without a Baron Morton. I think Utah, I like what Utah has, but we've seen some struggles throughout the season. But to me, it's BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, and Utah. BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Utah are the 4 real contenders. I thought this would be a 2-bid league. I think we're definitely down to 1 with the Big 12, though.
Well,
unless BYU goes undefeated and Texas Tech beats them in the Big 12 championship, that there's really only one way, and it's BYU going undefeated but then losing in the Big 12 championship.
Yes, I think Tech has to be exactly. I think that is the only scenario. It's Tech and BYU. I don't think anybody else gets in as an at-large team. Fury Road, it lives, man. I'm so excited about that. I'll say my headline out of the Big Ten was USC finally finding a way to get it done against a quote competent team. Yeah, and they didn't do it according to their game plan, right? Normally you would have drawn up, well, USC probably throws for over 300 yards and Miami has this big game, and they just kind of outrace Nebraska to the finish line. Miami was terrible yesterday. What his final stat line just eluded me, but 9 of 23 for $135 and an interception, but they ran for 202 yards. And listen, Dylan Raiola going out and missing the rest of the game with that ankle injury, that helped. I think at Nebraska, a competent Nebraska team offensively probably finds a way to win this game at home, but here USC is, they find a way to win, and their season's still alive. And that's something that honestly, we just haven't been able to say a lot of from Lincoln Riley. And
I want to support that too. This gave me a lot more confidence in USC because Nebraska has the number 1 pass defense in the country, and USC has the number 1 pass offense in the country. So the fact that Nebraska was able to take that away and USC still found a way shows me that team, that's a resilient football team. That's not going to fold over. They're not one-dimensional. They can find a way to win when the odds are against them. Again, Dylan Raiola going out kind of dampers that a little bit, but I think USC is legitimate. I don't know if they'll make the playoff, but gosh, it's still alive. It's still alive.
TJ Latif's stat line from that game is absolutely hilarious. 5 of 7 for 7 yards.
Yeah, he was kind of student body left, student body right in that game.
QB rating 0.4.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you tried. You tried, buddy.
Tough one.
Well,
my Big Ten headline, I'm gonna be a little headline on, or a little homer on this one, is that Julian's saying if he's not the best quarterback in the country, I think he's top 3.
He's very close. I've been saying exactly that. I think he's a top 3 quarterback in the country.
he threw some incredible deep balls. And I know Penn State's down, but there's still a lot of talent on that team. And Jeremiah Smith is an absolute alien.
This is bullcrap.
I mean, when you catch a tipped pass that's tipped by the line of scrimmage and you one-hand it and still find a way to score, I mean, I don't know. As a defensive coordinator, as Jim Knowles, you figure he would have known how to defend Jeremiah Smith. He saw him play for a year and then he still couldn't.
Sure. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Thank you guys for hopping on the show with us this afternoon. Jake, I know you've got a Friendsgiving. As I check the calendar, it's November 2nd, so.
November 2nd. I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it.
Hey, you're getting it done early, right? It's not going to be packed into all the other things that go around Thanksgiving.
It's not on a Saturday. It's great.
That's right. Maybe
Jake, I'm not going to hate on you for loving holidays. You go celebrate. Go be a king. Go celebrate.
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Maybe
Football,
I question
food.
Maybe a little early in the schedule, but you know what? Yeah, you're right. You go eat, drink, be merry. Will, I don't know what you do to mourn this 3-5 season. Sorry.
Hey, 7-5 loading, baby. 7-5 loading.
That's right. The best 7-5 team in the country. Jimmy's and Joe's, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Go find the Walk-on Redshirts. They do everything that we do, podcast, video. They're tremendous content over on Twitter. So we would certainly encourage you to go follow them. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us this afternoon. We will have the preview show up Wednesday as we load into week 11. For Will, for Jake, I'm Mitch. Thanks so much for hanging. And until next time, so long, everybody.